Learn about the world. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is an island country in the Indian Ocean, located between the Laccadive Sea and the Bay of Bengal to the east, about 30 kilometers, 19 miles off the southern coast of India. Sri Lanka consists of the main island and several smaller islands. Until 1972, the island was known as Ceylon. Basic information. Full name: Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Government type: Republic. ISO: LK, LKA. Country domain: LK. Phone code: +94. Time zone: +6 o'clock. Capital: Colombo. Major cities: Dhawala, Mount Lavinia, Moratuwa, Kandy, Jaffna, Gale, Anuradhapura. Largest cities in Sri Lanka: Colombo, Kadawela, Maharagama, Kesbewa, Dhawala, Mount Lavinia, Moratuwa, Negombo. Sri Jayawardenepura Kotte, Kalmanai, Kandy, Gale, Batticaloa, Jaffna, Matara, Gampaha, Kaltunayaki, Baralsgamuwa, Kolanawa, Anuradhapura, Trincomalee. Area: 65,610 square kilometers. Terrain: coastal plain in the north of the country. The hills and mountains of south-central Sri Lanka rise to 2,133 meters, 7,000 feet. Climate: Sri Lanka's climate can be considered tropical and quite hot. Its location between latitudes 5 and 10 degrees north makes it a warm climate, moderated by oceanic winds, and provides a fair amount of moisture. Population: 23,214,364, May 2025. Ethnicities: Sinhalese 74%, Tamils 18%, Moors 7%, Burgher, Malay, and Vedda 1%. Religions: Buddhism 69%, Hinduism 15%, Christianity 8%, Islam 7%. Languages: Sinhala and Tamil. Official: English. Agricultural products: processing rubber, tea, coconut, and other agricultural products. Clothing, cement, refined petroleum, textiles, tobacco. Industries: rice, sugarcane, cereals, beans, oilseeds. Spices: tea, rubber, coconut, milk, eggs, beef. Exports: commodities, textiles, tea and spices, production of rubber, gemstone, coconut products, fish. Exports partners: US, UK, India, Germany. Imports: commodities, petroleum, textiles, transport machinery and equipment, construction materials, construction, mineral products, food. Imports partners: India, China, UAE, Singapore, Japan. Currency: Sri Lankan rupee, LKR. Sri Lanka's foreign relations refer to the diplomatic and commercial relations between Sri Lanka and other countries. Sri Lanka has emphasized the principle of friendship with all, hostility to none in its foreign policy. Since the 1950s, Sri Lanka has pursued a non-aligned foreign policy, not taking sides with major powers. The country has pursued better relations with all major powers and sought to strengthen diplomatic, economic and military ties with China, India, Pakistan, Russia, the United States, Japan, South Korea and the European Union. Sri Lanka has also built close ties with member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, the African Union and the Arab League. Sri Lanka is involved in multilateral diplomacy, particularly in the United Nations, where it seeks to promote sovereignty, independence, and development in developing countries. Sri Lanka is a founding member of the Non-Aligned Movement, NAM. It is also a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the Asian Development Bank, ADB, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization as a dialogue partner, and the Colombo Plan. Sri Lanka continues to actively participate in NAM, while emphasizing the importance it places on regionalism by playing a strong role in SAARC. The objective of Sri Lanka's foreign policy is to maintain a strong, independent, powerful, and united Sri Lanka, with foreign policy that helps Sri Lanka achieve that goal. Sri Lanka's foreign policy is built on the basis of national interests. In a period of rapid and continuous change, foreign policy can respond optimally to new challenges and opportunities. It must be an integral part of a larger effort to build national capacity through economic development, strengthen the social fabric and welfare of its people, and protect Sri Lanka's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Sri Lanka's foreign policy is a forward-looking engagement with the rest of the world, based on a rigorous, realistic, and contemporary assessment of the bilateral, regional, and global geopolitical and economic environments. The National Unity Party has traditionally favored links with the West, while the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has favored links with the East. Sri Lanka has argued for a free Japan and refused to accept World War II reparations payments because it believed that it would harm Japan's economy. Sri Lanka played a key role in the 1955 Asian-African Conference, which was a crucial step in the crystallization of NAM. Relations between Sri Lanka and India became strained during the Junior Jayawardeneh administration. Consequently, India intervened in the Sri Lankan Civil War and subsequently deployed the Indian Peacekeeping Force in 1987. Currently, Sri Lanka has extensive relations with China, Russia, and Pakistan. Human rights in Sri Lanka provides for fundamental rights in the country. The Sri Lanka Constitution states that every person is entitled to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, including the freedom to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice, and that every person is equal before the law. Several human rights groups, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, as well as the British government, the United States Department of State and the European Union, have expressed concern about the state of human rights in Sri Lanka. The government of Sri Lanka and the Separatist Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, LTTE, as well as various other paramilitaries and Marxist Janatha Vimukthi Peramuna, JVP, rebels are accused of violating human rights. Although Sri Lanka has not officially practiced the death penalty since 1976, there are well-documented cases of state-sponsored disappearances and murders. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, LGBT, people in Sri Lanka face legal and social challenges not faced by non-LGBT people. Article 365 of the Sri Lankan Penal Code, which dates from the time of colonial British Ceylon, criminalizes sexual acts deemed against the order of nature. For much of the law's history, the prohibition applied to sexual acts between males. In 1995, Article 365 was amended to replace the word males with persons, so that same-sex sexual activity between two consenting adult females was outlawed in addition to that between consenting adult males. Other laws that marginalize and disadvantage LGBTQI individuals are enforced against purported gender impersonation. Article 399, used against transgender people, 59, and public indecency, Section 7. 1841 Vagrants Ordinance, used against sex workers, and anyone whose public behaviors are deemed to indicate same-sex sexual activity. Asylum seeker organizations and human rights NGOs have reported that police and government workers use the threat of arrest to assault, harass, and sexually and monetarily extort LGBTQI individuals. Vigilante attacks, vigilante executions, torture, forced anal examinations, and beatings are also tolerated. Sri Lanka has not yet implemented anti-discrimination laws. In Sri Lanka, the legal marriage age is 18. However, the Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act, MMDA, allows underage Muslims older than 12 to be married and does not require the bride's consent. The age can be reduced even further if a qazi allows it. The Penal Code also exempts Muslims from prosecution for statutory rape if the victim is married to the perpetrator and is 12 or older. Child marriage rates in Sri Lanka are at 2% by 15 and 12% by 18, lower than other South Asian nations. However, some marriages are unregistered and may be higher. Many Muslim girls have attempted suicide to avoid being forcefully married off, and girls that oppose marriages are beaten by their families. Husbands can also get quick divorces without having to offer any explanation, while the wife has to endure a long process that requires her to produce witnesses and attend hearings. The laws are administered through special Sharia courts administered by qazis. Women are not allowed to be qazis, and qazis routinely order women to keep quiet during proceedings. Representation through lawyers are also not allowed. Many incidents of domestic abuse, rape and murder of teenagers have been reported due to the MMDA. Many Muslim organizations such as the Women's Action Network, WAN, and Muslim Women's Research and Action Forum have been attempting to reform or abolish the MMDA and give equal rights to women and ban child marriage. However, members of the organizations face harassment and threats from extremist Muslim organizations. Activists have expressed fears to even engage in daily tasks such as traveling and sending children to school due to regular threats. Transport in Sri Lanka is based on its road network, which is centered on the country's commercial capital Colombo. A rail network handles a portion of Sri Lanka's transport needs. There are navigable waterways, harbors and 3 international airports in Kaltunayake, 35 kilometers (22 miles) north of Colombo, in Hambanoda, and in Jaffna. Roads account for about 93% of Sri Lanka's land transport. In 2022, there were 12,255.401 kilometers, 7,615.153 miles, of A and B class roads and 312.586 kilometers, 194.232 miles, of expressways. The main modes of transportation in Sri Lanka are bus, motorcycles and passenger cars, including taxi service. Sri Lanka's roads are graded E, A, B and C. The Colombo-Matara Expressway is a 126-kilometer-long, 78 mi, motorway linking Colombo, Gale and Matara, which was built in 2011 to develop the economy of the southern province. The Colombo-Kaltunayake Expressway, Colombo-Kandy Expressway and Outer Circular Expressway, Colombo Bypass Road, are under construction, and a Colombo-Pattaya Expressway has been proposed. The Sri Lankan government has proposed 3 elevated highways connecting the 3 main expressways, from Kirulapone to Kadawatha, about 19 kilometers, from Colombo Fort to Katawa, about 21 kilometers, from Colombo Fort to the Palayagoda. Sri Lanka's national highways are graded A or B. A grade roads are subdivided as A, AB or AC. Road density is highest in the southwest, particularly the area around Colombo. Highways are in good condition, with a smooth bitumen surface and road markings. However, some rural roads are in poor condition. Heavily traveled roads are being upgraded and repaved. Public transport is widely available in many rural areas. Buses are the principal mode of public transport. Service is provided by the state-run Sri Lanka Transport Board, SLTB, and privately owned buses. The SLTB has urban and rural routes, in many rural areas. It provides service which would be unprofitable for private operators. Sri Lanka modern transportation dates back 120 years to 1902. When the first ever car entered Sri Lanka, 8 HP single-cylinder rover brought down by Edgar Money, a local British businessman. Sri Lanka Railways consists of an intercity network connecting major population centres and commuter rail serving Colombo commuters. Sri Lanka Railways operates the country's railway network, which includes about 1,450 kilometers, 901 miles of track. Colombo is its hub. Trains connect the main cities of the country's 9 provinces. Most of the railways were developed during the British colonial period, with the first line, from Colombo to Kandy, opening on 26 April 1867. The railway was introduced as an economical means of transporting goods produced on the tea, rubber and coconut plantations to the main port in Colombo. The Sri Lankan rail network passes scenic landscapes, particularly the Colombo-Badulla main line, which hugs the country's steep highlands. The railways connect the cities of Kandy, Galle, Matara, Jaffna, Kankasantarai, Mannar, Anuradhapura, Gampaha, Negombo, Kurunegala, Avasawela, Kalutara, Polonnaruwa, Batticaloa, Trincomalee, Badulla, Gampola, Nawalapitia, Matale, Vavaniya, Puttalam and Chala with Colombo. The narrow-gauge Kalani Valley Line, from Colombo to Avasawela, was converted to 5 feet 6 in, 1,676 m broad gauge. The other narrow-gauge lines, from Nanuoya to Nuwara Eliya, Avasawela to Yatyatoda and Avasawela to Ratnapura and Opanayaka, were dismantled due to financial losses. Sri Lankan Airlines is Sri Lanka's national airline. Founded in 1979 as Air Lanka, it operates to Asia and Europe from its base at Bandaranaike International Airport in Colombo. The airline's main office is in the Airline Centre at the airport. The airline was scheduled to join the Oneworld Alliance in 2013. Sri Lankan Airlines flies to 62 destinations in 34 countries. As of 27 March 2022, the oldest airport and the first international airport, which is Ratmalana International Airport at Ratmalana, resumed international travel and declared open for the public after 55 years. Domestic operators are Cinnamon Air, Fitz Air, Helitours, Senok, and Simplifly. Sri Lanka has 19 airports. Sri Lanka has 160 kilometers, 99 mi, of inland waterways, primarily on rivers in the southwest, navigable by shallow draft boats. Sri Lanka has deep water ports at Colombo, Hambantota, Galle and Trincomalee. Colombo has the highest cargo volume, with an estimated capacity of 5.7 million TEUs. Construction of Magampura Mahinda Rajapaksa Port, also known as the Port of Hambantota, began in January 2008. It will be Sri Lanka's second largest port, after Colombo. The Dikavita Fishery Harbour, near Colombo in Watala, Gampaha, Western Province, will cost an estimated $73 million and is projected to be Asia's largest fishing harbour. Education in Sri Lanka has a long history, dating back 2 millennia. Although the Sri Lankan constitution does not provide for free education as a fundamental right, it does mention the complete eradication of illiteracy and ensuring universal and equal access to education at all levels in its section on the guiding principles of state policy. The computer literacy rate in 2017 was 28.3%, and mobile phone usage was 105% in 2017, and web usage was 32% in 2017. Education plays an important role in the life and culture of the country. With its origins dating back to 543 BC, Sri Lanka's modern education system is modeled after the Christian missionary system that was established after the country's annexation to the British Empire in the 19th century. Education is currently under the control of both the central government and the provincial councils, with some responsibilities falling to the central government and the provincial councils having autonomy over others. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative, HRMI, found that Sri Lanka is achieving 95.5% of what it should be achieving for the right to education based on the country's income level. The HRMI analyzes the right to education by looking at the rights to both primary and secondary education. Considering Sri Lanka's income level, the country is achieving 97.7% of what it should be achieving based on its resources, income, for primary education and 93.3% for secondary education. From primary to higher education, it is mainly funded and monitored by 3 government ministries. The National Institute of Education, NI, Sri Lanka, based in Maharagama, was established in 1986 under the provisions of the National Institute of Education Act No. 28 of 1985. The institute's objective is to provide leadership for the development of quality, equitable and relevant general education in a pluralistic society. The educational structure of Sri Lanka is divided into 5 parts: primary, secondary, higher secondary, college and university. Primary education lasts for 5 years, grades 1 to 5, and at the end of this period, students can choose to take a national examination known as the scholarship examination. This examination allows students with exceptional skills to move on to better schools. After completing primary education, lower secondary education, known as junior high school in some schools, lasts for 4 years, grades 6 to 9, followed by 2 years, grades 10 to 11, of upper secondary education, which is preparation for the General Certificate of Education, GCE, ordinary level, OLs. According to Sri Lankan law, all children are required to attend school up to grade 9, age 14, after which they can choose to continue their education or drop out and take up vocational training for employment or farming. However, the Ministry of Education strongly recommends that all students continue their education at least up to the GCE ordinary level. Students pursuing higher education must pass the GCE-OLs examination to enter university for a further 2 years, grades 12 to 13, to take the GCE advanced level. After completing this examination, students can move on to higher education. Thus the GCE-ALs are the university entrance examinations in Sri Lanka. Most schools in Sri Lanka are maintained by the government as part of the free education system. Currently, as of 2021, there are 10,155 public schools, 373 national schools and 9,782 provincial schools, with a student population of 4.2 million and 235,924 teachers. 736 Piravinas and 104 private schools with 127,968 students. With the establishment of the provincial council system in the 1980s, the central government handed over control of most schools to the local authorities. However, the old schools that existed during the colonial period are still retained by the central government, which creates 3 types of public schools: national schools, provincial schools, Piravinas schools for Buddhist monks. National schools are under the direct control of the Ministry of Education and are therefore directly funded by the ministry. Most of these schools were established during the colonial period and are therefore established institutions. A small number of these schools are known as renowned or elite schools because they have a long history and better maintained facilities than the average public school. This is mainly due to the support of their alumni. In recent years, newer schools and some central colleges have been upgraded to national schools over time, bringing the total number of national schools to 373, as of 2021. Provincial schools comprise the majority of schools in Sri Lanka, numbering 9,782, as of 2021. Parivan are monastic colleges for training Buddhist monks. They were also centers of secondary and tertiary education in ancient times for the common people as well. These private schools followed the local curriculum set by the Ministry of Education in the local language of Sinhala, Tamil or English. Healthcare. Sri Lanka scores well above the regional average on healthcare, with high life expectancy and lower maternal and infant mortality rates than its neighbors. In 2018, life expectancy was 72.1 for men and 78.5 for women, ranking 70th in the world. The Human Rights Measurement Initiative found that Sri Lanka is achieving 86.7% of what it should on the right to health based on its income level. Sri Lankans eat a wide variety of foods that make up a healthy and nutritious diet. The island's long history of vegetarianism has led to many vegetable-based dishes, while a long-standing commitment to natural sweeteners such as kithal, molasses, has meant that Sri Lanka has avoided problems associated with overconsumption of sugar in the diet. The high consumption of fish instead of other meats also adds to the healthiness of the Sri Lankan diet. While Sri Lankans tend to eat foods that are essential to a healthy diet, the way they choose to eat them often leads to diet-related health problems. Diets can often be too high in carbohydrates, due to a cultural preference for rice and other staple foods that are palatable, increasing the risk of diabetes, while disproportionately neglecting vegetable side dishes and often skipping dairy foods altogether. The overuse of oils and coconut oil has also been identified as contributing to diet-related problems. Sri Lanka has a free, universal healthcare system. The country scores well above the regional average for healthcare with high life expectancy and lower maternal and infant mortality rates than its neighbors. The country is known to have one of the earliest known healthcare systems in the world and has its own indigenous system of medicine. There are 555 public hospitals in Sri Lanka, in addition to a number of other public hospitals that treat according to the Ayurvedic system. A large number of private hospitals have emerged in Sri Lanka, due to the increase in incomes of the people and the demand for private healthcare services. They offer much more luxurious services than the public hospitals, but they are mainly limited to Colombo and its suburbs and are also expensive. Some of the most famous private hospitals are Navaloka Hospital, Asira Hospital, Himas Hospital, Lanka Hospital and Durdans Hospital. In Colombo, many private hospitals are located in the Narayanpeta area, namely Asira, Asira Surgical, Oasis, Ninewells, etc. Apart from Colombo, many leading cities such as Gampaha, Kandy, Gale also have private hospitals. As of 2014, the public sector accounted for 73% of the hospitals and 93% of the available bed capacity in Sri Lanka, while handling over 90% of all hospital admissions and outpatient visits in hospitals. In the private sector, the top 5 players are Dr. Neville Fernando Teaching Hospital, NFTH, Asira, Navaloka Hospitals plc, Navaloka, Durdans Hospitals, Durdans, and the Lanka Hospitals, accounting for nearly 45% of the private sector bed capacity, with NFTH being the market leader with 1,002 beds. Sinhala Traditional Medicine. There is no formal system for traditional Sinhala medical education. Other traditional systems of medicine: Institute of Indigenous Medicine, University of Colombo, Gampaha Wickramarachchi Institute of Ayurveda, University of Kelaniya, Jaffna University. Sri Lanka is one of the largest donors of human eyes in the world, with a supply of about 3,000 corneas per year. Professional associations include Sri Lanka Medical Association, Sri Lanka College of Community Physicians, Government Health Officers Association, Government Health Officers Forum. Sri Lankans have an average life expectancy of 75.5 years at birth, 10% higher than the world average. The infant mortality rate is 8.5 per 1,000 births and the maternal mortality rate is 0.39 per 1,000 births, on par with developed countries. The country's universal, pro-poor, healthcare system has contributed greatly to these numbers. Sri Lanka ranks first among Southeast Asian countries in suicide deaths, with 33 deaths per 100,000 people. According to the Census and Statistics Department, poverty, destructive distractions, and an inability to cope with stressful situations are major contributors to the high suicide rate. On July 8, 2020, the World Health Organization announced that Sri Lanka had successfully eliminated rubella and measles ahead of its 2023 target. Sports in Sri Lanka are an important part of Sri Lankan culture. The most popular sport is cricket. Rugby union is also popular. Other popular sports include aquatics, badminton, athletics, football, basketball and tennis. Sri Lankan schools and colleges regularly field sports and athletics teams, competing at provincial and national levels. The Sri Lankan national cricket team achieved considerable success starting in the 1990s, rising from the underdogs to win the 1996 Cricket World Cup. The Sri Lankan national cricket team reached the final of the 2007 Cricket World Cup, where they lost to Australia at the Kensington Oval in Bridgetown, Barbados. The Sri Lanka national cricket team has won the Asia Cup in 1986, 1997, 2004, 2008, 2014 and 2022. Sri Lanka has many sports stadiums, including the Sinhalese Sports Club Stadium, Paikyasathi Saravanamuttu Stadium and R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo, Mahinda Rajapaksa International Stadium in Hambantota, Palakale International Cricket Stadium in Kandy, Rengiri Dambulla International Stadium in Dambulla and Gale International Stadium in Gale. The country co-hosted the 1996 Cricket World Cup with India and Pakistan, the 2011 Cricket World Cup with India and Bangladesh, and has hosted the Asia Cup tournament several times. Water sports such as sailing, surfing, swimming and scuba diving on the coast. Beaches and shallow waters attract many Sri Lankans and foreign tourists. The Sri Lankan government undertakes necessary renovations to maintain the quality of the stadiums, with separate funds being allocated to Sri Lankan cricket. The cricket board selects and recruits new players every year and divides them into two teams, A and B, as players progress in their careers. They have the opportunity to be selected for the national team. Some of the traditional sports in Sri Lanka include kabaddi, gilli-danda, the predecessor of cricket, Kili Thadthu, Kanamuchi, Chak Guda, Thankayadi and L. There are two indigenous martial arts styles of Sri Lanka, namely Chinadi and Angampora. Games such as Kota Pora, knee fight, Ankalia, horn-pulling, Kana Mutti Bindima, pot smashing, Porapal Gasima, Lasana Gaha Nagima, greased pole climbing, Banis Kama, dumpling eating competition, and Guda Kelia are played during a Vorudu, the Sinhalese New Year. Sri Lanka first participated in the Olympic Games in 1948 and has sent a delegation to every Summer Olympic Games, except the 1976 Games to boycott the apartheid regime in South Africa, and has never participated in the Winter Olympic Games. Sri Lanka first participated in the Asian Games in 1951. Sri Lanka has won 47 medals during its participation in the Asian Games. Sri Lanka is a member of the South Asian region of the Olympic Council of Asia, OCA, and has participated in the South Asian Games since the event began in 1984. At the 2019 South Asian Games, Sri Lanka won a record total of 252 medals, including 40 gold medals. Sri Lanka has participated in all but 3 Commonwealth Games since 1938, with the 1954, 1974 and 1986 Games being the only ones absent. Sri Lanka has won 20 medals at these games, but has suffered a 44-year medal drought from 1950 to 1994. Until 1974, Sri Lanka competed under the name Ceylon. Cricket is the most popular sport in Sri Lanka. It is one of the 12 countries that are full members and participate in Test cricket and is one of the 7 countries to have won the Cricket World Cup. Cricket is played at professional, semi-professional and recreational levels in the country, and international cricket matches are followed with interest by a large section of the population. Football is a popular sport in Sri Lanka and is governed by the Sri Lanka Football Association. This association manages the Sri Lanka national football team as well as the Sri Lanka Premier League. Netball was first played in Sri Lanka in 1921. The first match was played by the Ceylon Girl Scout Company at Kandy High School. In 1927, netball was first played at the Government Training College. This helped spread the game throughout Sri Lanka. As of January 2011, the women's national team is ranked 15th in the world. They have won the Asian Netball Championship 6 times and have hosted it once. Rugby union is mainly played at a semi-professional and recreational level. It is a popular team sport with a history dating back to 1879. Sri Lanka has yet to qualify for the Rugby World Cup, however the national team has enjoyed success in recent years, reaching 42nd in the world rankings in 2006. Australian rules rugby is a growing sport in Sri Lanka.